You're listening to Candid Sustainability, the podcast that explores ways we try and sometimes fail to live more sustainably.
Felt guilty for forgetting your shopping bag or for buying strawberries flown halfway across the world in winter? Yeah, same. Let's talk about this thing no one warns you about when you start to care about the environment, when you start caring about sustainability. They call it green guilt.
You're listening to Candid Sustainability, the podcast that explores ways we try and sometimes fail to live more sustainably.
I'm Kabelo, corporate sustainability PhD researcher navigating life across cultures and continents. Here we talk honestly about trying, failing, and still caring about the planet. So I was about 8 years old and I was going to town with my aunt in a small South African town called Bloemfontein. We were at one of the shopping malls. I think it was either Mimosa or Waterfront. I don't quite remember. But what I do remember was that my aunt started complaining to the cashier about having to pay for the plastic bags. Honestly, I wasn't even part of the conversation, but I remember this strange feeling creeping up, like I had somehow messed up. So my aunt would always tell my older siblings to pack shopping bags in the car when we went into the city or we went shopping really. So that day it was just me and her. So technically it was my turn to remember. But I didn't have the language for it then. But now I know. That was my first taste of eco-guilt. And it didn't stop there, if I'm being honest. Years later, I still almost always forget to pack my shopping bags. My partner and I do this thing at the grocery store where we try to figure out whose job it was to remember them. And then we just end up blaming our spontaneous shopping trip. Like, oh, maybe we didn't know that we're going to buy so much. And then we console ourselves. And we do all of this while we're packing snacks that we didn't really need into single-use plastic. But look, we're not all that bad. I mean, we try to eat local. Remember, I told you that we have a hydroponics tower? Yeah. Honestly, that tower is my whole sustainability personality. But seriously, long before we had these eco labels or lifestyle influencers, our elders were already laying down a lot of sustainability principles. But of course, they just didn't call it that. So we were having a conversation with my partner when I was preparing for this episode, and he was telling me that his grandfather always used to tell them to reuse plastic bags during that time, they used to get free government garbage bags, these black ones from the municipality. And he would always tell him to ensure that they fill the plastic bags to the brim before they threw them out. And they also used to separate the waste. So they would separate plastic from cardboard, and they would also even separate pet litter. For us, we used to use pet litter as fertilizer in the garden. And all of this was around 2002, by the way. So it was long before waste separation was trendy as it is now. And in summer, we also used to burn waste. It was a double-edged sword. And my partner says they used to do the same thing because it used to you get rid of the rubbish that way, but you also keep the mosquitoes away. But I mean, now, of course, I know we side-eye incineration because, well, emissions, right? But it all leads into then this bigger story or this bigger topic that I want us to touch upon. And it's more emotional, really. It's eco-anxiety. So how I define eco-anxiety is probably that feeling of anxiety you have every time you violate your sustainability norms or you see other people go against the norms that you've set for yourself in terms of what you think is environmentally or socially sustainable. So I then asked my partner when we were having this conversation if he had ever felt this way. And he was like, actually, yes. And the first time he felt that way was when he snapped at one of his friends for throwing paper cups out of a car window when he was driving one time. And I felt that. I did, because my grandmother, I love her, bless her, but she used to do the same thing every time I drove her around. She would casually toss things out of the window, and every single time I would flinch. But honestly, sometimes I really used to call her out on it. It gave me full-on anxiety. But I know a lot of people would be like, because she would always be like, oh man, it's just a little garbage, like it's nothing so big. And maybe they found me exhausting every time I'm telling them don't litter. But for me, I'm just like, that's the simplest way you can care for the environment. But I know it can be exhausting. But you know what's exhausting for me? For me, I feel having to overthink every single thing. Sometimes I just want to live. I just want to use a plastic bag when I forget my shopping bag and not feel like the earth is crying every time I put everything into one plastic bag and I don't separate my because I forgot to buy plastic bags. For me, it's not always practical to be 100% sustainable. So the other day I was in my apartment block, we have a waste room or that's what I'm going to call it. And this is where you find all the bins and they are properly labeled so you can separate your waste accordingly. I remember I was just standing there. I was going to throw my trash and I was thinking, do I really need to take the tea bag off the tea bag before tossing it into the compost bin? Or do I need to separate the wine bottle with the labeling? Like, do I have to peel it off so that I can separate the paper from the glass and then throw the cap into the metal bin? I was like, come on, I didn't take a master's degree in waste sorting. Or maybe I should have. Maybe we should all do that, right? We all need a degree in waste sorting because honestly, it's a science. I feel like throwing out trash has become a science. And I know I'm not alone in this. I read a post recently on social media. It was somebody in India who shared how much they try to avoid plastic and they always try to buy eco-friendly products, which I was like, you go girl, like that's really good. But when it comes to skincare, this person was saying it's a bit difficult to find products that aren't using plastic with skincare products. And sometimes when she does get these products in plastic, she would then ensure that she goes and recycles the plastic packaging. But not everything is recyclable, she says. And so she's always feeling guilty. I assume it's a female. But she's always feeling guilty every time she buys these products because she's thinking, oh my God, maybe this is not recyclable. And I was like, you know what? I hear you. Because it's almost like we live in this conflict where we're told, oh, you need to take care of yourself. And then we're also told, no, but you need to take care of the planet. So sometimes it just feels like these things are at odds. Like you can either be responsible or you can be happy and do the things that make you feel like you're taking care of yourself. But you can't do both. And honestly, everybody's probably asking, so how do we deal with this? Like, what should we do? What should I do? What do I do? Honestly, I've stopped chasing perfection. I just focus on progress these days. For example, I try and separate my waste as best as I can. But I will admit, living in Sweden really helps because the system supports it. Like I was telling you, like in my apartment block, we have the waste separation bins and everything, where everything is supposed to go. And they also give these free compostable bags, which it makes things easier, right? But I also give myself credit for the small wins. Like, okay, this week I haven't eaten meat or I've taken a couple of days without eating meat. I'm like, okay, you're doing something good for the environment. Or if I remember to bring my shopping bag when I go to the stores, I'm like, way to go, KB, you're doing a great job. Or if I go a while without buying fast fashion, I'm like, awesome, right? But I will say fast fashion deserves an episode on its own. So yeah, let me know what you want us to talk about when we talk about fast fashion. Write it down in the comments. But anyway, I'm not in any means saying the things that I do are perfect. It's not perfect at all, but it's something. I'm contributing somehow. And these days when I feel like I'm getting a little bit of eco guilt, I try not to see it as punishment, but just as a gentle reminder from my future self telling me, hey, KB, next time, remember to pack that shopping bag. Just do that so we save the planet. But I'd love to hear from you. What's one thing you feel guilty about that maybe you shouldn't? Let's talk about it over on Substack or in the comments wherever you're listening. And that's a wrap on today's episode of Candid Sustainability. Green guilt? Yeah, it's real, absolutely. But it doesn't have to run the show. We're all just trying to figure out as we go. And sometimes that means forgetting the shopping bag or putting all your waste in one bin. It's okay. So here's something to think about. What's the one thing you're going to start feeling guilty about this week? Maybe it's those long showers or that pack of strawberries you bought that are out of season. Whatever it is, give yourself a little grace. Next time on the pod, we're getting into some nostalgia with sustainability. sustainability in my culture, what I didn't realize I grew up doing right. So maybe you might also want to share how you practice sustainability in your culture. Spoiler alert, the episode is going to be about vegetable gardens, shared meals, and a whole lot of wisdom from our elders. But before you go, subscribe so you don't miss an episode. Share this with someone who needs a little reminder that perfection isn't the goal. So if you're listening on Substack or YouTube, tell me, what has green guilt looked like for you? Thanks for being here. Let's keep it candid. See you on the next one and keep doing your best.